Hello everyone, I'm bringing you something of a quasi-unboxing video today. It's not a proper unboxing video because the various items we're going to look at have arrived over the last couple of weeks, and obviously I've opened up the package and things as they've arrived. But nevertheless, I thought it was worth having a look at these by way of an update. So this is essentially an update looking at some recently arrived East German bits and pieces, and that's what we're going to have a look at now. So we're going to dive straight in here and have a look at the various bits and pieces which have arrived. And the first thing we're going to have a look at is this. And I want to say a big thank you again to Tommy Richter here. This came from German eBay, and the seller didn't ship to the UK, so he's put a selection of the bits and pieces we're going to look at here together for me as one package and ship them over. I think his family helped with that as well, so thanks to Tommy's family too. And some of these items have come from German.Militaria, which is obviously a web shop in the UK selling East German bits and pieces, so various sources for these items. This particular one came from German eBay, as I say, and it's an East German riot helmet, as you can see here. The visor would originally have been clear. It's become discoloured over time, I believe. And we're going to talk about this in a future video, of course, in more detail, but just to give you a brief look at the details of it here. It's an internal liner there. Obviously the neck protector at the back here, which attaches in with press studs, as you can see there, the chin strap and so forth. So the last piece I needed of the anti-riot kit, I have the shield and the longer baton in the 1980s. So having this, rather nice, it completes that basic set of equipment, I guess you could say. So very pleased to have this. Next thing we have here came from German.Militaria, and this is a gas mask bag, as you can see here, and this is a replacement for one I already had. Unfortunately on that one, the pocket for the decontamination kit, obviously the decontamination kit had been left in it, and it has a sort of bleach paste in it which is highly concentrated and gives off noxious fumes, and that had actually attacked the plastic and the material that it was made from, so that was deteriorating. So I wanted a replacement. I don't keep the decontamination kits in them, but presumably at some point in its life it's been left with one in for a while, and that's caused it to deteriorate. Whenever I get a decontamination kit, I tend to clean out the original contents and replace them with something, a facsimile. I use, if I remember correctly, I think I was using PVA glue and talcum powder last time to get something similar to the material. And the bottles are often cracked, and PVA glue has the advantage of its self-healing. If it leaks out, it actually sets and seals the cracks. That's by the by. You can see this is a respirator haversack, a gas mask bag for the M10M. It's just one big compartment in there. You don't have the divider for the canister and the face piece, which is what I wanted. It's the one that's unfortunately suffered from having the decontamination kit in it, so this is an excellent replacement. And you can see there the date in the stamps at the top here of 87. Nice thing to have, and in unissued condition, so excellent for my purposes. Next thing to look at here, we have a set of signal flags, and the yellow and the red are the typical ones you see in photographs. So I'm happy to have these. Also came with a green one as well, which looks very blue in the camera here, but this is more of a turquoisey green colour. Not sure why it's coming through quite so blue on the camera. But pleased to have these. I'm not quite sure what the significance of the green flag is. As I say, in use in the field, you tend to see artillery and traffic control and so forth using the red and yellow. So the green is there as well. Just arrived as a 3 flag set. Next thing is a small thing, a carrier for an East German bayonet, and obviously this clips onto the scabbard, and then this strap secures around the handle of the bayonet, the grips, and then it just has a belt loop here formed from this piece of leather. This is basically an unissued condition. The one I have is a little bit cracked around the edges, so it's very nice to have this in unissued condition. The other one I have gives out. This will replace it, but it's nice to have a clean, unused example in the collection for the meantime. Next thing to look at here is an officer's or professional soldier's Schiffchen field cap. Nice to have one of these. It's a later example with the stitched down sides, in good condition, possibly unissued condition, and you can see size 58 there. Interestingly, I've found with the East German kit, I can get away with a 57 for the peaked caps, but for field caps, and I think winter caps as well, I need a 58. So just an interesting thing there. The 57s in the peaked cap seems to sit a little bit better on the head for me. We have here an MPI KM cleaning kit in this little roll, with various bits in there. Something just to sort of complete the small kit, the smaller items, the soldier's kit, so rather pleased to have that. Again, came in from Germany. A winter uniform collar. I don't have the winter uniform yet, but that's on the way. This is for, again, officers or professional soldiers. Slightly lighter grey faux fur on the collar there. So nice to have, and as I say, the winter uniform will hopefully be arriving in the not too distant future. Next thing to look at here is some more uniform. I bring this into shot here. We have uniform for the Kampfgruppen, and this is quite interesting in that it's clearly been used. It's a bit discoloured around the collar. As you can see here, we have the size label there of M48. There's a bit of discoloration around the collar and wear, so it's clearly been used. Most of the examples you see of these which come up for sale appear to be unissued. You have the badge on the arm there, a little bit of wear and tear to this. And then we have rank sewn on the other arm, which again is unusual to see. And this has been very crudely sewn on, so I don't know if this is original or whether someone's added this after the fact. I forget exactly what this stands for off the top of my head. I am planning to make a video talking about rank, quote unquote, in the Kampfgruppen. It wasn't rank per se, but it performed the same function as rank in the Kampfgruppen. And this is the most junior with a single thin bar across the top of the pocket on the right arm there. So we have the jacket there, an earlier example of these, sort of early to mid 70s. You have the elbow reinforcement there, as you can see, and all the concealed buttons on the front pockets there, but the exposed buttons on the arm pockets. And then the trousers, which came with this, you can see here, again, you have the buttonholes on the pockets, not the concealed buttons. So again, these are sort of 1970s production. So quite nice to have. Came as a set, so I do already have a pair of the trousers, but as they came as a set, it made sense to pick up the trousers as well. Have some shoulder boards and some other bits of insignia in here, and a load of buttons, both plastic and aluminium, for shoulder boards here. Just useful to have those. So bought a bag of those. Just useful to have, as I say. So we have here a Fahnenrichs arm badge, and I do intend to, I'm hoping to find a Grenztruppen officer's jacket which can be badged up as Fahnenrich. So we have the arm badge there for that little project. We have here shoulder boards for a Gefreiter in the Grenztruppen, and you have here the Postenführer bands added onto those, which show obviously a post leader basically. So it's a junior NCO serving in the role of post leader with these broad green strips of cloth added on to the shoulder boards there. So rather nice to have. And fairly unusual item here, we have shoulder boards for an Oberfähnrich, and these are essentially naval shoulder boards. So you have the dark blue, the navy blue strip around the outside there with the silver down the centre and 2 gold stars, which denotes Oberfähnrich. But on the back we have Grenztruppen green, which shows this is either the boat company, Fahnenrich in the boat companies, or in Grenzbrigade Kust. So this is quite interesting from that point of view. So it's the naval rank insignia, but for use with, obviously, as I say, those 2 units. I don't believe there are any other units who wore this combination of colours, but rather nice to have from that point of view, fairly unusual. So very pleased to have these. And obviously these don't use the silver buttons. I'd need naval gold tone naval buttons for use with these, which have an anchor in the centre. I do have one set of those, so I'd probably need to get another set. They're currently on a set of Meister shoulder boards on another uniform, so I'll have to get another pair of naval shoulder board buttons, I think, for those. Some paperwork items to have a look at here. Bring these into shot. We have a couple of pocket calendars, obviously one for a company here. You can see the details of that on the front, and the other one for the Reichsbahn. And what I like here is that obviously the Reichsbahn one is from 1982-83 and the other one is from 1989, and it's actually been used, which you don't often see. So quite pleased to have these. Nice little pocket fillers, and they're always quite like these, quite bright and colourful and nice little bits of history in and of themselves. We also have here an identity book, and this hasn't been used, so quite nice to have an unused example of one of those. I think German.Militaria sells examples of these which have been used, which include military dog tags, so I'd like to get a set of those as well, but it's nice to have an unused example for the collection. We have here a booklet giving details of the Fähnrich rank. So this gives quite a bit of information on the role of the Fähnrich in different branches and different technical roles and so forth. So a good reason for me to brush up on my German. My German isn't fantastic. You can see you have the different grades of Fähnrich which were introduced I think in 1979, if I remember correctly. That's when they changed over to having the different grades of Fähnrich. So Oberfähnrich, which is the naval sort of Grenzbrigade Kust shoulder board we were just looking at, and then Fähnrich there you have the single star, and then right above Stabsfähnrich and Stabsoberfähnrich. Might I say my German, my reading German isn't terrible. I can sort of make sense of basic sentences, but it's not good enough to read something like this, so it's a good reason for me to start trying to relearn and improve on my German once again. And then the final thing to look at here of this little batch of sort of paperwork items is this copy of Sputnik. And it's a lovely little copy of the Soviet magazine in German, so it's a German language version, as you can see. The advert for Aeroflot on the back there. And this is absolutely chock full of all sorts of bits and pieces. It's a lovely little snapshot of Sputnik from the 1970s, this particular copy from 1975, long before this was actually banned in East Germany. In the later 1980s, I believe Sputnik, the circulation of Sputnik was banned, sort of as a political message, I guess you could say, due to the dissatisfaction with Glasnost and Perestroika at the time, the regime in East Germany. But nice to have an example of one of these. Nice, again, element of sort of personal items there. And Sputnik is somewhat iconic as a Soviet publication of the time, and it's nice to have this German language version which fits in with my collecting of East German bits and pieces. So put those to one side. Another item I was very pleased to pick up is this East German digital watch. You can see details on the back there and on the front face. Made in GDR, Eurochron, as you can see. And quite keen to pick up one of these to go with sort of sets of equipment and so forth. And this one does work. It needs a setting. It's not 2 minutes past 10 at night, but I need to reset this at some point. Very pleased to have this, as I say, and that it is working. I'd quite like to pick up another example of one of these at some point, a different example, but very pleased with this in the meantime. So a lovely little item to add to the collection. And another item which came from German.Militaria is this. And this is a service blouse, which, as you can see, I've badged up for a Fähnrich in the Grenztruppen. You can see that there with the Grenztruppen green backing to these shoulder boards. And you can see, in contrast to the naval examples of these we saw before, you have the olive drab colour around the side of the silver bands down the centre there, and the single star for Fähnrich. Appropriate medal ribbons there for Grenztruppen service, and also merit medals there as well, as you can see. On the Interimspange, the medal ribbons on a bar over the top of the left breast pocket there. And this is the field, and this is the service blouse, as I say, for wear with the service uniform when the jacket wasn't worn, so particularly in the summer. It's quite an interesting design, sort of based on Soviet design. I think the Soviet version of this came first, and then East Germany sort of copied it. And the idea is it's worn untucked. It sits down around the hips rather than on the waist, and you have this elasticated section on each side to sort of pull this in around the hips. The elastic was gone on these, so I've replaced it with some more. It's simply buttonhole elastic that you button onto these little buttons on each side, so I've replaced the elastic there, so it's actually got some stretch to it. The original elastic is just in the top pocket here, so I've not got rid of that. I've kept the original elastic, but it had basically turned to dust, or was turning to dust, so I've replaced that so this can be worn. In the collar here you can see the size 39N, which appears to be about right for me. It's possibly a little bit short in the arms. I think I sit somewhere between a normal and a long. Unfortunately, I'm sort of average height, but I'm quite gangly, so my arm span, your arm span is normally around your height. and mine's about 2 or 3 inches longer than my height. So I'm quite gangly from that point of view, which means the sleeve sits possibly just a little bit short on me. But nevertheless, very happy with this. And as I say, this came from German Militaria, as did the shoulder boards, as did the medal ribbons. The buttons on the shoulder boards were just part of that batch I bought in. So it's quite nice to have this badged up as we have it here. The next thing to have a look at is a cap, which sort of goes with this, and that's the last thing we're going to look at in this video. And here we have it, a cap. An officer in the Grenztruppen, or a Fähnrich for that matter, and this came to me. It was rather ratty condition, needed a good clean. There is a little bit of mothing to the wool around the back here. You can see it's a little bit bald here, but it's not in terrible condition. A little bit of discoloration to the crown here, as you can see, a few spots, but otherwise not in terrible condition. It wasn't expensive. I've replaced the chin strap, the chin cord rather, and the cap badge. All of the red enamel from the centre was missing on the original cap badge, so I've replaced that, and it's now quite wearable and usable. It's a size 57, as you can see inside here. The L date stamp at the bottom there. It has newspaper, old newspaper, stuffed in around the top of the crown there, which is fairly common to see. Give a little bit of extra support to the back of the crown. And overall, very happy with this. So this is another part of the sort of Fähnrich uniform that I'm putting together, and having the peak cap for that was a nice addition. And as I say, not expensive. These are in human sizes, becoming more expensive. Interestingly, you could pick them up very easily. Not all that long ago, but human sizes of these, sort of 57 up, becoming more and more uncommon. And I'm lucky, I suppose you could say, in terms of peak caps, as I can get into a 57, and 57 sort of sits right compared to what you see in period photographs, rather than needing a 58 in the peak caps. So very pleased with this, and nice to see this sort of cleaned up compared to how it originally arrived. So I do hope you found it interesting. As said, some of these items will no doubt be showing up on the channel sooner rather than later in sort of full form videos, having a look at them in a bit more detail. So if you'd like to see those videos, and if you'd like to see other uploads of this nature, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. That's everything for this video, so until next time, bye for now.